A very good day to you and welcome. We're reaching you live from our studios at the commercial city of Lagos. I'm Oyinpreye Krumale. This is Souq Business Landscape, your trusted gateway to the heartbeat of business, economy, and development across Nigeria, Africa, and the global marketplace. In a world driven by shifting economic tides, rising market and strategic investment, we bring you in-depth analysis, hard-hitting interviews, and expert perspectives that unpack forces shaping today's business environment, from the boardroom decision and government policies to grassroots entrepreneurs, HIP, and the international trade deals. This is where insight meets impact, whether you're an investor, policymaker, entrepreneur, or citizen trying to make sense of the numbers that shape your world. Souq Business Landscape puts the stories, trends, and data in context. Right here, every week, we have the program that brings out insights, and the anchors on the program talk on variety of issues that touch the nerve of business, economy, and development. As usual, I'm not the only one on the program. Today, I would say you're having three musketeers on the program, including myself. Good day and good morning. No, it's afternoon. It depends on where you're watching us from, though.
We are global, so good morning, good
afternoon, and good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Souq, John Rogers Souq, and this is SBL. Thank you, Priya, for having us again.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So, to you, Olumide.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're from. So glad to be on Souq Business Landscape. I am Olumide Sokoya. Thanks, Priya, for having us.
Okay, so first of all, let's just briefly run around a few of the things, if not all, maybe a few of them we're going to talk about before the commencement of the program. 77, okay, well, let's say 3,000 housing units. Will I be right if I say that? Or 77,400 housing units across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory? Or would I say 250 housing units for each of the states in the 36? So which one does Chooks go with?
Well, right now, I'm on my knees praying that God should deliver us from whatever it is that is making us think in that direction. But hey, when we get to that particular bridge, we won't cross it.
We won't cross it?
Definitely we won't cross it.
Oh, okay. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about the housing unit for Olumide, so it doesn't repeat what you said. I'm hoping that we're going to cross every bridge when we get there. So, not just the housing unit. Lagos is a blue trail line. Did it get your attention? Do you think anything greater than what we've met on ground is coming?
Well, the blue line, the first about the blue line, the red line, it's good. It's a welcome development, but I'm looking at whereby the routes are expanded. Right now, the blue ray, I think, is running from Marina to Mile 2. I mean, we need to expand that. And it doesn't really cut through neighborhoods, areas, and all that. So I'm looking, and again, if you look at it, it's run by electricity. And we know what the national grid and power in Nigeria is. So if you look at the cost of these things, it's quite on the high side. But I'm also looking at, Lagos is a metropolitan state. I'm also looking at a situation whereby I think the goal of it is to divert traffic, divert people from using the regular cars and all that, and into a safer route of transportation, which is the train.
I see.
I think that's the aim of it. Like in developing countries, that's the aim. So I believe that maybe 2030, I think that's the goal, we would get to that situation whereby I don't have to, use my car. I can travel from here to Abuja, I can travel from here to Kano via train.
The train. Well, we hope that will be the case here. Now, for us to delve into the meat of the conversation, we're briefly going to break. When we return, we'll jump into the work for today. It's Souq Business Landscape. I'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the program. Let's begin with our first story. The federal government is planning to build over 77,000 housing units for poor and displaced Nigerians under its renewed Hope social housing program. A source in the Ministry of Housing says the scheme will provide 100,000 homes, 100 homes in each of the country's 774 local government areas, targeting internally displaced persons, widows, and low-income earners earning 77,000 naira or less. Though the program is yet to be officially launched, approval is expected soon. The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs will help identify those most in need of this housing scheme. Beneficiaries with no income will get homes for free, while low-income earners will pay a small subsidized fee. Well, the program is yet to be launched. I'm not surprised why those with low income earning will be, their housing or the house they are going to get will be subsidized. And those who there's a category of people there who will be getting those houses for free. And I was thinking about the number of those people and the number of housing units you are going to be having in each state, and how these persons can have access, and at the same time, those will be coming to either buy or rent those apartments, and how, if this project is something that is sustainable, self-sustaining, so that we do not only have these houses in those located areas, but also in the next 5-10 years, by virtue of how much we've garnered from that housing scheme, we'll be able to build other housing units within each state. What's your perspective?
My perspective is government is not Father Christmas. Let's not reduce government to what it is not. And everything is not about politics. There are areas to which you can make political statements or try to be popular, and we will understand. Not this. Because when we dive into this with this kind of project, we are only going to create rancor in local government. Now there are 774 local governments.
Okay.
And you are saying you are building 100 housing units in each local government. You are not building a housing unit to sell or make profit. You're building a housing unit to directly dash.
It's for rental.
Dash.
No,
Not all.
Not all.
Low income earners.
Now, low income earners, they will pay
5,000
they'll pay 5,000
per month.
per month. No, let's be realistic and now tell ourselves some big truth. Is it possible? No. This is a fallacy right from the get-go. Now you're going to build and dash. They say those that can't afford it, you dash them. Now, this is another question I need to ask.
I think maybe you use the word for free. They're going to get it for free.
In our balance, it's called dash.
More.
You understand what I mean, right? Like dash somebody something, dash person house. Now let's get to ask ourselves these basic questions. Nigeria, we are 40.1% of Nigerians are poor. 72%, 63% of Nigerians are multidimensionally poor. This statistics is coming from our own body, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. I don't know if you understand. Now, we have a housing deficit that is the highest in the world. And our Federal Mortgage Bank is telling us that we need 700,000 houses every year for 20 years to be able to bridge the gap. And now, a group is waking up. Government group is waking up and telling us they are building 100 houses in every local government. It's not even the local government. If it's the local government that is taking this initiative, I'll say, okay, good and fine. They have a plan for the people within their local government. Now, this is majorly political. At the end of the day, what are we going to get? Who gets and who doesn't get? I don't know if you know that. Who gets and who doesn't get? In the local government, that amount of housing alone won't even be enough for some local governments. So how do you distribute it? It now boils down to another channel of corruption. How do you account for that money? Another channel of corruption. How do you even vet and veto? There are several things that we really need to question.
Okay, but if that's the case, Mr. Chooks, if you look at it very well, I know whilst the Minister of State for Housing, Yusuf Atta, was saying that the housing challenge is meant to solve, to provide mass housing for Nigerians by mass housing by virtue of the renewed hope.
Where is the renewed? Hold on. Last year we had
just a moment.
We had another
just a moment. Just a moment.
So we have renewed hope. What has happened to that
3,000 housing units within Okay, Lagos, Abuja, and Kano, 250 housing units each for this state, at least for a starting point.
250 units housing.
At least that's for a start. Because
is it a dormitory?
I went to start.
No.
That is where I'm heading to. So I went to research about a single housing. I was told that a housing unit does not mean a group of housing. That it could be that housing unit means a family, a household, dwell in, just like a housing unit is suitable for a household.
How many rooms?
For a family.
Suitable for a family.
Since they are targeting the poor, it shouldn't be more than a room.
No, at least a room and a parlor and a few other facilities. Okay. At least 2 rooms, if that's what they are targeting. Okay. And now, let me land. So if they are going to do that, and we consider 250, it also gave out the reason that the government will need to acquire land for us to for those housing units to be built. So give or take, we are looking at 250 houses, one for each family. Though I consider it very, very inadequate and insufficient if that is
how
going
do
for
you
a
distribute
state.
that? How do you map out the poor? How do you say, okay, this person qualifies, that person doesn't qualify?
Okay, before we look at the...
Of course, before we look at the troubles and sort them out.
Before we start looking at that, before we start looking at the challenges that comes with this project, let's look at the positive side first. Let's look at the positive side first.
No.
Who is paying for this project? Can we just focus on the positive first? Of course, we are going to come to all those challenges that will put the government on the edge. Because if you look at the uses,
did something bigger than this in Lagos.
Wait, I know.
And Lagos State was able to replicate that. Can we replicate this based?
Great. Now we are beginning to focus on the positive because we are going to have time to look at the negatives as well. Yes, Olumide.
Well, just like Souq said, over a population of over 200 million, 77,000 is not...
No. We are looking at the positives first. Let's look at the positives. We all agree that there is housing deficit in the country at the moment. And if the government, by way of what it had in its manifesto, is coming up with something, let's look at the group of people or the category of people that this agenda is tailored towards, and the likelihood that they are going to get something. Of course, it won't be providing housing for the 220 million people in Nigeria. Yes. True. Let's look at the positives.
All right, the positive: widows, internally displaced persons, and people earning below 77,000 are going to get homes for themselves, maybe whether a family of 1 or 2, 3. So, I mean, and we all know what rent is in this country, especially in Lagos. So, taking rent off the shoulders of a particular family, if a father, the mother, the widow, or whoever, is something, I mean, it will bring succor to that particular family that, oh, yes, I don't have to pay rent. Or probably for the low-income earners that be paying like 5,000, okay, I have to just pay 5,000 naira per month or something like that, or a very little amount to pay for rent. It is good. It would actually bring some sort of relief, respite, and all that. So, yes, it's commendable, but, you know, upping that figure would have been better.
Would have been better. Okay, so now before let me give my positive before we go to the negative.
It's not about positive and negative.
No. We're looking at the pros and the cons.
I forced it right from the very beginning. There's something called sustainability. You don't start a project that's going to, at the end of the day, become an issue with whoever is starting it, or the community where it's going to.
Great. So I need to drop the ball when it comes to the positive. So let me give my positive take on it. Then we can begin to look at the cons, the pros and the cons. Now, remember that in states like Lagos and including other states, there are some other states that we were told that there is some form of congestion. And if the government is coming up with a scheme like this, I tend to see that we will most likely be faced with the project of expanding cityscapes, whether it's building in Abuja, in Lagos, in Kano, or in other parts. Whilst I was going through it too, I was making my calculations. So, and it was giving me, I think it gave me about 3 for the purpose of land and the management of land. I think it's a basic estimate for low density housing. An average per per area per unit will be 0.5 to 0.25 areas. That you're looking at 0.1 acre, which will be 4,356 square meters. That's for urban lot. And if you multiply that by the number of housing that the government needs to build, at least to start with, in each phase, we'll be looking at about 25. We'll be looking at 3,000 to 5,000 acres of land.
That's way
to be looking at 5,000 acres of land. So I am looking at now for
way too
just
much.
wait just a moment, guys. If we are looking at the housing that is a little bit bigger than this, we'll be looking at between 15,000 to 19,000 acres of land. Now I'm looking at those acres of land in places that we should occupy, that the government should take advantage of by opening up some of the city landscape so we can have dwellers there instead of bringing congestion into the city. That is equally one of the positives that I'm looking at.
Can I add one positive?
Yes, please.
Now, from what I'm reading, from the report I'm reading here, it says the builds will be local, both in rural and urban, using local materials, modular, prefabs method, and it will also drive local employment. That means certain people will get that contract to build these things. And, it's also, from what I'm reading here also, as at April 2025, it has been shifted to about 100,000 units. Okay. And the legislation for the National Social Housing Fund is still pending in the National Assembly and Federal Executive Council, and implementation is due by the end of 2025. So which means certain adjustments can still be made.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now to the cons that Souq is itching for.
I'm not itching.
Okay.
I believe the federal government should be able to take care of her citizens. That is her primary responsibility, protect and provide. Now, when we are protecting and providing, we should do it with business sense and not shoot ourselves in the foot. If we say we are providing accommodation for those that can't afford it, there are things called dormitories. There are things called living quarters. If you say somebody that cannot afford accommodation, somebody that is not employed, and you are giving the person a building, you are giving the person responsibility the person cannot cater for. Let's be factual. Typical example. Some years back, a government in this country built police quarters. If you're going to Abuja, once you're entering to Abuja, if you're coming through the the double lane, built police quarters for junior staff police quarters, and those houses were given out to the policemen. What happened to them at the end of the day? Some were sold, some were just used, and it's just there. At the end of the day, they sold most of them. The last time I crossed, I think they've almost demolished part of them.
The police officers who got the houses, we sold them.
Yes. They've demolished some of them, and they are building, those that bought the place are building something else on it. There's something called responsibility. Can these people you are trying to target, why not get them employed first? Why not get them to be gainfully doing something that can generate a living for them before now start giving them the responsibility of giving them a house that they might not be able to take care of? Now, how can government replicate this same exercise? Because if we say we are trying to get this done, we should be able to replicate it. What happened to local government? This should be the responsibility of the local government. Then we should also remember this. We are Africans. How do we subexist where we come from? There are family lands. There are family houses that are passed on from generation to generation. The local government is in a better position to get into that particular line and establish this particular kind of building within these families. We are nuclear people on the outside, but we are extended family people in culture. Nobody is an outsider where we come from. So families that grow to be local government should be able to take care of themselves. That is where we should be looking at. And not just looking at each person as a nuclear person.
Okay, so if we are to look at it from, let's look at this perspective. From the example you painted from the police officers that were given junior police officers.
Very, very low-ranking junior officers.
They're still police officers. They're still police officers that were given houses by the government of the day. And at the end, at the same time, they ended up sold those
that's
houses
even part one.
on the land.
Hold on, sorry. Let me bring more example. Abuja came with a whole lot of beautiful issues. Now, those that were relocated, the locals that were relocated were taken to some particular places, and the houses were built for them. At the end of the day, what happened? They sold them.
They sold their
Yes.
houses.
And as we speak now, a lot of them don't even have a place to call their own because somebody somewhere will come with big money and that person cannot say no.
Okay, so whilst that means it is incumbent on the government, whenever it's bringing out policies of this sort, to also go back and take a look at other policies that are similar that the governments of previous administration has actually ditched out, so that they can look at the loopholes, look at the challenges, and bring in those fault lines into limelight so we can make policies to mitigate those effects. Now, if the government is going to be building houses, and some of this project that has been done before has been mismanaged and misused because they built houses and handed the key over to these persons, can't the government build these houses and rent them out on that basis alone, and a subsidized rental to be paid, since it's catering to the people at the head of society? What do you think, Olumide?
It's not bad, but like Chuk said, why not provide something that they can use to get money and rent this house? Because if you say, oh, I'm giving someone, an internally displaced person, first of all, an internally displaced person doesn't even have anything, any source of income. So how would you expect that person to be able to pay even as low as 5,000? Why not give him a job or provide something, create something that out of it, maybe 10% or 15% out of that, he uses to pay rent as low as 5,000. Widows also, how would you take care of that too?
Okay, so if we're looking at, there are special cases where the government can begin to have considerations, because I think that if the government is going to build these houses and give them out for rent for someone to pay as low as 5,000 naira, then I think
5,000 per month.
5,000 naira per month. Okay, even if the government is going to subsidize it to 2,500 or 3,000 naira per month, and some of these people can foot the bill, then it denied them the advantage of selling the house or selling the land to some other persons who can afford to buy it and maybe resold and redeveloped. In that way, the government can sustain, because we were talking about sustainability from the beginning. In that way, the government can sustain the 250 housing units, and for another years to come, the government can still maintain that and get the proceeds from those ones by way of rental to reestablish another form of housing unit for the poorest of the poor at the head of society.
Okay, there's this particular policy China does. They have local governments there too. The local government makes money majorly from selling lands. They sell lands to developers. The government funds the bank to give loans to the developer.
Mortgage bank.
At a minus interest. I don't know if you
negative.
Now you understand the circle. Now the developer will now get land from the local government and build. And the people will now come and rent to buy. So as you're paying a rent, at the end of the day, the last is eventually going to be yours. But you are renting to own the house.
To own the
so
house, yes.
that is what we should be practicing here.
Yes.
Now, there are other people that might not be able to afford it. That is where we are going to.
Yes.
The people this project is for, this policy is for, are those that cannot afford it. More than 80% of Nigerians cannot afford a house. So how do we get us into that bracket? How do we get people into that bracket? Lagos State government have done several of this kind of projects,
yes.
And they are still doing the same. Now, the federal government should emulate from Lagos State government. Other states too should emulate from Lagos State government. But now, we should also
They didn't pay cheap in Lagos. We can't be talking about 5,000 naira in Lagos, because I knew of that project you are talking
it's
about.
Not cheap, but it's not. You can't compare it to the price of that private developers.
But yet it will run into millions, because I had information about
yes,
that
but
project.
not as much as civil servants could actually pay for that without putting their hands in dirty places.
Okay,
Definitely.
there's a clause to that.
Yes,
So,
without putting their hands in dirty places. Now, other states should also emulate the same thing. Then now, let's always remember we are a cultural people. Typical example, in the East, it's difficult for you to go build mass housing in somebody's village. They won't live there. There's an attachment to land based on ancestry. I don't know if you understand. So if you have to build house, that kind of thing, get them involved. So if you are building this kind of houses, then good, that means you are building a market or you are building a dormitory where those that are working in the cities there can always go, sleep over, go to work, and pay. That makes it easy. But when it comes to owning the house in that part of the country, then get the people themselves involved. Now, it's different in the north. You have, okay, how would you deal with this and the Almajiri system? So see, a lot of policies has to do with the people being involved.
Okay, so now let's look at a specific area that is quite sensitive in this housing scheme. Do remember that in places where we have Boko Haram and bandits that, destroyed, sent people away, burnt villages to the ground, we knew that there are people who are doing well by way of living, by way of business, and their standard of living, who are doing well. But as a result of this encroachment by the terrorists, they lost their livelihood, they lost their houses, and now currently as we speak, they are living in IDP camps. Shouldn't this government, if it's going to give out houses, if it's going to be giving out houses to some certain people, and there's a category of people that's going to be getting these houses for free, shouldn't we be looking at some of these persons who were displaced by way of terrorism and their livelihoods taken out of them, their own houses burnt to the ground, and their communities are a no-go area? Shouldn't the government give priority to these people to build them a shelter and take them away from the IDP camps?
Oh, if we're looking at IDP camps, some IDP camps, one IDP camp will consume that entire housing project. One IDP camp. I also remember that some IDP camps are not even in the states where there are conflict. There are IDP camps in Edo. So people are coming all the way from the northwest, north central, and moving down to Edo. How do you deal with that? Are they going to build these houses in Edo? The community too will have issues.
To be involved.
Will have issues if they agree in the first place. There's a lot of things involved. But I believe that if you empower a man being man and woman, empower a man to be able to get his hands dirty and work, housing will not be an issue. But first, we should start looking at places, dormitories where people can go, put their heads, and go and work. Okay. These are things that we should consider a lot in this country.
All right.
There are some in Lagos already, some run by churches, some run by missionaries, but we should really look into that.
Okay, thank you very much, Chooks. Now we go on a break. When we return, we will be moving on to the second story in our conversation today. It's Souq Business Landscape from Souq News Television. Stay with us.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
Cocoa remains a significant cash crop in Nigeria, predominantly produced by small-scale farmers in the country's southwest region. Historically, cocoa served as a major source of foreign earnings until the 1970s, when the discovery of petroleum shifted the focus away from agriculture. Despite various challenges from its introduction in 1807 to the present, efforts by successive governments and the resilience of cocoa farmers have sustained its production. To better optimize productivity and ensure fair prices for farmers and high economic returns for the government, the Cocoa Marketing Board, CMB, was established in 1947. However, the goal was not totally achieved as pricing policy weren't favorable, discouraging farmers from producing export crops, and that eventually led to the board's abolition in 1986. This resulted in reduced yields and lower quality cocoa beans. Meanwhile, the millennium era witnessed a shift in farmers' focus towards more economically viable crops like oil palm due to the high cost and intensive care required for cocoa production. Cocoa production faces several obstacles, including limited access to fertilizers, unfavorable climate conditions, pest infestation, poor infrastructure, and land shortages. Also, herders' attacks on farmers have deterred farmers from expanding their farmlands. According to research, despite challenges, cocoa production has empowered many farmers and more stakeholders in the value chain, improving their living standards, enabling them to provide education for their children, cover medical expenses, and build better homes. Concerning the future of cocoa farming in Nigeria, there are mixed opinions among farmers. Some are hopeful that government's reinvestment in addressing current challenges can revive the sector's past success. Others are pessimistic due to the persistent issues and the trend of farmers shifting to other crops. Regardless, hope remains for the sector. Solutions like improving land-labor relations, infrastructure, and financial support could revitalize cocoa production, reduce out-migration, stabilize prices, and enhance value chain development, ultimately securing a brighter future for Nigerian cocoa farming and its stakeholders. Ojai Michael, reporting for Souq News.
Cocoa has more than tripled in costs over the past year and is up 129% this year. The rise in cocoa prices is likely due to a global cocoa shortage. Climate change-induced drought has ravaged crops in West Africa, which contributes around 80% of the world's cocoa output. According to the International Cocoa Association, global cocoa supply will decline by almost 11% over the 2023-24 season. The world produces nearly 6 million tons of cocoa beans each year, and consumers may begin to feel the impact of this shortage by the end of this year or early next year. Nigeria's cocoa earnings in the first quarter of this year surged by 279%, driven by a sharp increase in its prices in the international market. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) indicates that in the first 3 months of the year, the value of cocoa exports totaled 408.66 billion naira. This represents an increase of 279% from the 179.5 billion naira recorded in the first 3 months of 2023.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the program. And to our second story. Nigeria's Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, has joined world leaders in Monaco to discuss sustainable ocean development, the Blue Economy and Finance Forum, hosted by Prince Albert II, ahead of the United Nations Ocean Conference, brought together key figures including Prince William, French President Emmanuel Macron, and Brazil's President Lula da Silva. Speaking on behalf of President Tinubu, Oyetola reaffirmed Nigeria's commitment to protecting marine ecosystems, improving ocean governance, and promoting investment in the blue economy. He also held strategic meetings with the global partners to strengthen cooperation in marine conservation and sustainable ocean finance across West and Central Africa. Gentlemen, when President Bola Tinubu came into the saddle, one of the things that you started hearing from that time is marine and blue economy. It threw up lots of questions, eyebrows were raised, and I know when the designation of Mr. Wale Edun, had coordinating Minister of the Economy and Finance Minister, Wale Edun. So as journalists, we begin to dissect it. But this particular ministry, blue economy, marine and blue economy, I believe this is one of the economy, or this is one of the ministry that Nigerians have been waiting for to see the economic bearing it will have with the president's expectation to not only attract IGR or to attract foreign direct investment, but also to expand Nigeria's marine and shipping industry for us to have quite some benefit. Do you think we are up the ante? We are doing good in that aspect, or we're still watching to see the miraculous in that ministry?
You like miracle a lot, eh? That's good. It's good to have hope. It's the renewed hope season. So let your hope not dwindle and not wane.
Yes.
For we in this side of the divide, we were blessed with that ministry. So for the president to come up and say, we are going to have a ministry of blue
Economy.
that means expectation, not just from him, but from all of us. Now, some people might not understand. Over 90% of import, export happens over the sea, over the ocean. And that is also under that particular ministry. How much of that particular business is operated by Nigerians or Africans? That's where we should start. That's what we should start looking at. Who is ferrying Nigerian goods outside this country? Who is bringing goods into this country that Nigeria is using? We are not just a port. We are one of the major ports in West Africa. So a lot of other African countries depend on us. So it gets here, then it's moved to other African countries. So how much of a player are we in that particular sector? That is what I'm looking forward to seeing, be it NIMASA, be it the Shippers Council, be it every of the policy they've had over years. They had the cabotage policy, they had several other ones that was directly drawn for Nigerian shippers. So can we stand up as we speak now and say Nigerian shippers come first when it comes to moving Nigerian goods or bringing in goods from outside the country for Nigerians or Africans? That is what we should be looking at right now. And that is where I really want the president to stand up and also stamp his authority. People always look at the side of moving oil product. These contracts have been signed long time ago. And it's going to take a whole lot of beating the demon to get them off the foreign people that are moving them. But now, what about the consumable goods? What about the everyday kind of equipment that are coming into Nigeria? What about our agricultural products that we are sending out?
Okay.
Where are Nigerian shippers? Where are we playing? Then now, let's also look at the foreign trawlers that are fishing in Nigerian waters. We are losing well over $600 million every year. That's locally.
$600 million
every year. That is locally. What about the one that are exporting? Who is holding them onto it? Nigerian waters is open, and foreign trawlers are cashing out. We should be the major players. Okay. It's our waters.
Okay.
The fish in our own.
Okay. The fish, according to Chooks, the fish in our home. Okay. So now, Olumide, your perspective.
Yeah, I like to look at the positive sides here. Now, Nigeria's blue economy is valued globally, according to reports, at $1.5 trillion and projected to grow to $3 trillion by 2030. Now, let's look at another thing I would like to point out here. According to a report, the Federal Ministry of Maritime and Blue Economy oversees 4 maritime agencies, and the total revenue as at between January and November 2024 reached 850.3 billion naira. That's between January and November 2024. Which
naira.
Is like, yes, billion naira, 850. Yes, it's quite small. I know where you are going, so hold your horses. Now, but it is a 77% increase over the 479 billion naira in 2023.
Okay.
So it's, yes, we are still growing. Just like
are we growing or we're just scratching the surface?
77% increase is it's not minimal.
So if you say 77% increase, doesn't that increase depend on what we're making before and that we've made a little bit,
okay.
a little
that whole figure
yes.
that just came out now is less than what one shipping line outside this country makes in a year.
Okay.
So not what profit after service in a year.
Okay.
And those shipping lines are plying our waters.
Okay, Chooks, you made something very remarkable that I would like to. You talked about the trawlers and where you now use the local parlance, the fish in our homes. So I want to quickly say the economic growth The blue economy fosters economic growth through various sectors like fisheries, aquaculture, shipping, tourism, renewable energy, and marine biotechnology. So, you also talked about Nigerian ports. That is a major port in the continent of Africa. So when Olumide was quoted that if you value the Nigerian, that industry about $1.5 trillion, and I was just looking, because when we value things this way, for me, what I'm just thinking is, okay, I want to assume the government is making $1 trillion. Or is
value is
no,
different.
I know value, potential.
You said hope
the potential.
now.
So I'm hoping that the
Thank you very
government
much.
is seeing an avenue to make $1.5 trillion, and is really gunning for it. Because the same way we spoke about Nigerian telecommunications industry, and they said Nigerian telecommunication has the potential to generate $10 billion. And I'm looking at it, okay, imagine the government harnessing, I'm hoping rather, that it takes the bull by the horn, and we are making $10 billion. We cannot begin to talk about other sectors now. Look at the potential involved in it, and if the government participation really comes with or lives to average, we could be getting substantial amount where we'll stop having deficit in our budget and all of that. But this is where exactly I'm going. When you talk about Nigerian ports being major ports in the continent of Africa, I looked at the work of a professional, an expert in that field, and he said at the moment now, Niger is a landlocked country, and some other countries that are proximate to Nigeria, they are landlocked countries, and they were just depending on the Nigerian ports to get the goods shipped into this country. Then we in turn move it into the interlands to get into these countries, So those countries were depending on us. But due to some dilapidated state of the Nigeria infrastructure and the number of days that you spend to clear your goods in the Nigerian ports, for Nigeria it is 21 days. I was told in Ghana it is 3 days. And some other
in some countries in
other African countries, I was told you can do that in a day. In South Africa, it's not in hours, or maybe like a day or two. So if that is the case, what can we do? Because if we say we are looking at marine and blue economy, and we look at the state of our port, they are in a dilapidated state.
Not all, though.
Not all, yes, but we have not started harnessing what we need to harness. And we are other shipping companies in Nigeria are turning their attention down to South Africa and down to Ghana. And Niger, which is a landlocked country and is proximate to Nigeria here, because of the bureaucratic bottlenecks, cannot depend on our ports system, will now have to turn attention to Ghana and to tell their markets and their clients abroad to send their ship or their goods to Ghana or to South Africa.
Or to Benin.
Or to Benin.
Small Benin.
Can't you see that we are losing?
But still small Benin.
Can't you see that we are losing?
There is something Doc will always say. He said we should put Nigeria first. It's more of a pointer to where we are coming from. And the present administration has barely 2 years. So if possible, let's have a statesman that the goalpost is not the next election, but the goalpost is delivering on that 1-point-something trillion economy from the... So even if we hit 100 billion in 2 years, that has taken care of our budget for next year.
Sure.
So these are things I am really looking forward to. And for people that are in this sector, this is our gateway to financial freedom. And we can't leave it in the hands of foreigners. This is a mistake we are making. China has built well over 230 ports in Africa and around the globe. They know why they are doing it. They are opening up markets for their goods to flood the place, and also opening up chains for to take raw materials back to where they need it for energy and other things. So why can't we see the light and hold a grip on this particular revenue earner? Our ports is the gateway to sales, is the gateway to the market. Then for the renewables.
Yes.
How serious are we? China is making money off seaweed. Our ports, our beach land, ocean land spans from Lagos all the way to Calabar. That's well over 700 kilometers. So be it the seaweed, be it renewable energy, be it tourism, we have everything on our laps. What are we doing with it?
Okay.
So we should start calling ourselves to order.
All right.
Not just government, but we as a people too, because the opportunity is there. How are we utilizing it?
Okay, so Olumide, there's an aspect that I would like to consider, and we cannot just brush past it, because if we do, we might not be giving due attention to it, and that part is had to do with security. And I know when it talk about security in this aspect, if we go to the Niger Delta, we can begin to reference Tantita and its exploits over there. One of the conversation I had with Doug, and I complained bitterly about why we have ports in Lagos State and we are not opening up the space in the Niger Delta. And that's the reason why it is linked to the Niger Delta, because we have access to sea. And why we're not opening, why is it that all this attention coming to Lagos? And there is nothing bad coming to Lagos, but in order for us to open up the market space and for us to have a level playing ground where other goods coming from outside the shores could have easy access into Nigeria and not only just through Lagos. And he was talking about he was mentioning issues like the ports or the rivers in the Niger Delta, they are not well protected. Because if he said that, we'll be turning our attention to the Nigerian Navy, because we know the Nigerian Navy is active on that side. And so what can we do about security?
Why is Lagos protected and that side is not protected?
No, okay, no. So that
is it not the same ocean? Once you cross the ocean, it's the next country.
That's the question. So I put a
it's the same thing
to him too. So what's your perspective?
I think the Niger Delta is a sensitive issue that we really need to. It goes beyond marine and blue economy. I think there's political will involved there.
Political will.
Yes, involved there. Somehow we've not been able to get that particular place right, and it has caused a whole lot of things. So I don't want to go into politics because if you have to discuss about Niger Delta, you might have to go into politics. So I think it's a very sensitive issue that has some underlying factors, which until it is resolved, we can't really look at that place as somewhere we can use to generate real income. I mean, we have the Niger Delta boys there. They are complaining about so many things and all that, and the federal government, are they actually answering them? Is there a negotiation table going on and all that? We have the Niger Delta Commission. What is that commission? What has that commission really achieved and all? So it's a really sensitive issue that I think the government really needs to sit down with these people who we claim to own that particular place.
Okay, so in my conversation, I actually took it out. I'm like, okay, could that be called economic marginalization? Because if the Lagos ports are faring the way they are faring over here, and sometimes we'll talk about congestion here in Lagos, from the Tinkan port, from the Apapa port, if we look at it deeply, we'll talk about congestion. And probably, could that be the reason why we have 21 days before, that's almost a month, before people can get their goods off the port? Because if we open up the space in the Niger Delta, and we make it very easy, and the government reinforce security on that part of town to make sure that whatever is coming to the country through that route is also secured by having the Nigerian Navy and equipping the Nigerian Navy to be up to the task to defend that on that. So we begin to, because there are other issues where we've heard people attack some boats, or they went to kidnap and they escaped through the Lagos, the waterways and through their routes, and they were apprehended. So why can't we have this replication of beefing up security in the Niger Delta so we can have ships safe?
I said I don't want to go into politics. I know we've heard so many times that the Niger Navy have been fingered to be part of this whole thing going on in the Niger Delta. Let me just put that there.
Okay, if they have been fingered, or if they have been fingered,
so if they've been accused,
if they've been alleged or accused, Have they been accused or alleged?
Alleged. Let's put it that way.
Alleged.
If they've been alleged, have they been alleged?
Some personnel of the Nigerian Navy.
Yes, some
Alleged.
personnel. If they've been alleged in the Niger Delta, have they been alleged in the Lagos waters?
Security cut across. It doesn't matter where you are.
Because that is one of the reasons why
there are issues here too. But how come it's always put in check? This is where ownership comes to play. Where are the people from the Niger Delta? Where are the businessmen from the Niger Delta? Where are those that want to invest in the Niger Delta? These are the questions we should start asking ourselves. Are they people taken off government? Are they the people government has made? Are they those that have made money off government? What have they done for that same Niger Delta they claim to be part of? These are the questions we should be asking ourselves.
But don't you think if the situation had been put right there, then investors can have the privilege and the opportunity to come? It's the responsibility of the government to put it. Of course, security is the responsibility of the government.
I agree with you.
Section 14, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I agree with you. Is it the government that, let me get very personal now, is it the government that told your village head to make sure that people don't transgress on people's farms?
On people's farms?
Yes.
I'm trying to get the logic behind it.
It's just a simple logic. Is it the federal government that told your village head or told my father to make sure that nobody trespasses on people's farms in the house?
The security...
I'm just asking a simple
No, because I'm equally just saying rhetorically, because the protection of lives and property and the maintenance of security is the
primary good
of the government, not of the village head.
Now, imagine, I brought it very, very low. Now, it's the same way that, because my father will stand up and tell the next compound, don't do this. And he will stand his ground. It's the same way the community will tell the next community, please, don't let your children trespass into our farm settlement. Everybody will agree. It's the same way the people of the Niger Delta should stand up as a unit, as a people, and say, okay, good, this is our port. This is our business place. We are going to develop it. Government, play your part. And not just staying and we'll come in front of the, come in the media and we'll keep these rhetorics year after year. It turns to a decade. It turns to 10 decades. What have the people done? And stop blaming the government.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me give you a typical example. There is a Dangote here. The refinery was not supposed to be here.
Yes.
But somebody...
Was it supposed to be in the Niger Delta?
Yes.
No. I thought it was
initially,
in Ogun State.
Yes.
Ogun State is the Niger Delta.
No. That was the first place. That was the first, as the second. This is the third. Okay. Then somebody lured him and said, hey, come. We can get it done here. So why have we in the Niger Delta not done the same? I don't know if you understand. We should, if we say we like this land, then let's invest in it. Not just our money, but let's also invest our time and our love for the place. Let it show. Government is not going to do everything. There is a port, Lekki Deep Sea. Good. That's the second. There's the third one that is coming in Lagos. Hey.
Lagos.
Yes, Lagos.
Again,
yes.
Lagos.
Because people have stood up and said Lagos is going to work.
Okay.
So the same way, those in the Niger Delta, stand up and make your place count.
Okay, thank you very much. But I don't buy that. The same people have stood up to say it's going to work.
People should stand up. Is it the people, the militants, or who?
No? Now see, see where we are getting it wrong. Business people, core business people, the technocrats, the politicians, all of them need to come together and make it work.
Okay.
But the government, like he said, provides that protection.
When you come together, government might moves.
No.
Yes.
No, then you are putting the cat before the horse.
No. When you come
because
together,
it is a responsibility of the government to create a conducive, business-friendly environment. Either in the Niger Delta, in Lagos, in Kano State, or in Borno State.
Keep quiet and sit?
See,
I don't understand.
that is no.
It's a choice.
It is not about militancy. The government has done a lot to get that off the way. If the government has done a lot to get that off the way, then it is incumbent on the government to make sure that that place is business friendly.
Who is the government?
Whilst I don't want to flog that issue.
Who is the government?
So for what I'm going to say, to you and about the people of the Niger Delta to make sure that this runs, is the names that I'm going to call. That the current minister of the Federal Capital Territory.
Everybody needs to
Just a
come
moment,
together.
please. Just a moment. The current minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, His Excellency Nyesom Wike. The current governor of Delta State, who recently jumped ship from the PDP to the APC. The Minister of Aviation and Aeronautics, Mr. Festus Keyamo, and other governors and prominent people in the Niger Delta should, because they should understand that terrain and what that will bring into the economy of that region. And if they are not going to use their political position and their proximity to power, just a moment,
to business people.
No, of course, see, no, I'm coming, Chooks. I am coming, Chooks. If these people who are in the corridors of power cannot influence the current administration to turn its eyes to shipping, to ports operation, just the way they are faring in Lagos, to replicate same in the Niger Delta, and to be thinking that the current master plan using Lagos as the single state for us to be attracting goods into the country through the waterways, and that is going to develop the marine and blue economy, I think it will be wrong. So, because if these people who have asked, these people that I have mentioned, I know, that's where I am going. That is why I said other state, those are the stakeholders. So if they're not going to, they have to use their position to attract the business economy, because until these persons who are in the corridors of power stand their ground by way of lobbying to make that place accessible for themselves and for the business community to come invest their money, because so that the investment will be safe, then we will not be making any headway. And the projection of Mr. President to make the marine and the blue economy what is going to be, to maybe contribute its quota to be the $1 trillion economy, might just, you know what, fall flat on its face. That's what I wanted to say. And on that note, we're going to break. When we're back, we'll go to our third conversation. Do stay with us.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job. Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State, on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with a daily service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged prosecuted and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakonde was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakonde. Souq Enlightenment.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the program. Now, from one aspect of transportation, we're moving on to another aspect of transportation. And this time, we're not talking about the Niger Delta or coming back home in Lagos. Lagos commuters can now expect faster train rides along the Blue Rail Line. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says traveling time between Marina and Mile 2 will drop from 18 minutes to just under 10 minutes, thanks to the arrival of the three new trains with 12 coaches each. He made the announcement while handing over the new trains to Lagos State Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, LAMATA. The governor added that daily trips would increase, making the service more reliable and predictable. Sanwo-Olu also thanked President Bola Tinubu for his support, noting that more coaches are expected for the Red Line before the end of the year. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Railway Corporation has extended special train services on the Lagos-Ibadan and Abuja-Kaduna routes till Tuesday, following a surge in passenger demand during the Eid holidays. Yeah, now, that is the story we're going to be talking about. However, we want you to listen to the governor. We have a clip for you to play. Take a look at this.
The president also deemed it fit, and we're extremely very grateful. We've expressed it before, to have supported us financially extensively in the procurement of this additional rolling stock. And so now you can see that his agenda is working, and is working very well for us in Lagos State. On behalf of the government and the people of Lagos State, we want to thank Mr. President, we want to thank the federal government, we want to thank everybody that has been part of our journey. And I want to say that this is just the tip of it. I want to assure you that before the end of the year, also we're going to be seeing brand new trains like this on the Red Line.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us. You see the reason that we most times make Lagos State as an example when we are referring to regional development or subnational development or the performance of the governors or the chief executive officers of these respective states. He mentioned two things, or we can deduce two things from the article there. He talked about travel time being reduced from 18 minutes to 10 minutes. I believe that will replicate what we currently have in Canada, if not in the UK. And Lagos is not only doing this in Lamata, where the trains will be running. They're also doing this in the bus rapid transit. That's the BRT system. So are we going to say Lagos is working? If you listen to the governor, he says the agenda. Lagos has an agenda, an economic agenda, and obviously it seems to be working. Chooks.
President, he's quite... Yeah, these are things that were in the works coming. These are plans that people stood and said this is going to happen years back, and we're only seeing them come to fruition. So each time I get to see this kind of project, I ask myself, where are other states? Where are the business community in other states? Are you people sleeping? At the end of the day, when people plan and execute and it works, one thing comes to mind. We start shouting and saying, because the present president is from there. Nobody stopped your governor or your business people to do the same thing. I won't use the word shameful, no, but that should be a challenge to every executive governor. We happen to be transmitting live from Lagos, and we are seeing this work. If it can work here, it can also work elsewhere. How transparent these projects are, we might not tell you right now, but we know that whatever monies were borrowed to get this project started have to be repaid. So if it's being repaid by state or federal government, we'll get to find out and we'll give you the feedback. But for every other person out there, just like the story we had before this particular one, is our responsibility to make our regions viable business-wise. When we start dealing business-wise in our region, then people will come. If we wait for government to come build one palace for people to come and do business, it doesn't work that way. We show people that this is doable, then things will start trickling in.
Yes, thank you very much. So for Olumide, I am beginning to wonder, because we should look for a day where we'll invite the head, the person, whoever is head in Lamata, and so that we can talk about the bus rapid transit system and how much it is bringing into the state coffers in Lagos State. And now the trail, the red line is there, the blue line is there, and it seems to be expanding. And in my mind, I'm beginning to think about figures and how much the government will be making from this, and how this money that will be realized by the government will be suitable for other projects that will be used for in Lagos State. What's your perspective? What's your take on this?
Well, the blue line, the blue rail line, is a very fantastic initiative. I mean, electrified system, lower emissions, clean energy, you know, the tracks, it's not sharing tracks with other rail systems and all that. But then again, you know, I mentioned to you at the beginning of this program that it's just running from mile 2 to Badagry.
Mile 2.
Marina, rather.
Marina to mile 2.
Marina to mile 2. So now imagine if it's running from probably Marina to as far as Ikorodu or Beja and all that. It would, I don't know what they are making right now, but it will triple if there are other routes. Though it's still in, I think it's in phase 1, so there's phase 2 and all that, phase 3. So yes, we hope that they would also think about all these routes, because some of these train stops are not close to neighborhoods, and maybe Marina is close to the Lagos Island market, but other markets, as it will help other business and people and all that. So I'm looking at that. How accessible is it?
Okay.
So that we can actually begin to see that efficiency of this train. And I also mentioned a situation whereby Nigerians, because Lagos traffic is really hectic, you can stay 4-5 hours in the traffic. I'm looking at a situation whereby people use less cars and use the train. Train is actually supposed to be the safest, or one of the safest means of transportation. That is the culture we need to imbibe. Now, I also mentioned way back that imagine having, though Chuk said there's a rail running from Niger, Minna to Lagos. I also talked about that, expanding the rail line so that it can actually boost business activities. People can actually send goods from as far as Kano, Niger, and the rest of them down to Lagos, or even outside Lagos. I know former President Muhammadu Buhari was talking about a linking rail line between Nigeria and I think Niger Republic. What happened to that?
Okay, so one of the things, Chuks, that I want to look at is this, the tendency. Because if you talk about mile 12 is from Marina to mile 2 rather, it's okay, but have we considered mile 2 to Idiaraba, mile 2 to Okwafo?
There's a red line.
Mile 2 to Badagry.
There's a red line that is taking those places you're talking about right now. That was commissioned sometime this year. They are still building though.
Because I don't think it has started functioning or operational.
Just functioning.
Operationally, operation-wise.
What is it called? The coaches are coming in.
Okay.
Then if you're moving from Lagos now to Badagry, you still see the stations are still being built.
Yes.
But that is the blue line.
Okay.
It's getting to mile 2 right now, but the construction is still ongoing towards Badagry. Then there is a red line. If you get to If you get to the markets behind Surulere.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the name of that place. You start seeing that particular station that is going all the way through the old airport.
Okay.
Down as if you're going towards that, joining the rail to Ibadan.
Yes.
You also see it crossing our own side here. towards the National Theatre.
Yes.
Yes.
So
yes.
that is also built already. So the next one we are looking at is the one that is going to come from the mainland and heading towards Ekpe. And we want to see that done as quickly as possible. If this is doable, other states should emulate. That's just what we want to see. Just like you said, Olumide, we want to see less cars on our roads. Why should I be spending this much and man-hour on the road just to get to work? Or if I can just come out of the house, get to the station, and drop me here and walk into the office. Less spent on transport. I come here looking fresh and here to banter and disagree with you happily.
Imagine you living in Lagos and working in Ibadan and take a 45-minute train to Ibadan in the morning and back.
And back home.
We have
less people looking for accommodation in Lagos.
In Lagos.
So you mean that the 2060 year that the former administration President Muhammadu Buhari
2060.
Okay, 2060.
2060.
2060.
Now, these are not issue. People should stop setting agenda and
the agenda is set was that we are going to be zero emission nation of green gases for climate change and all of that, 2060.
Okay.
And if you said that, so the government doesn't need to ruffle shoulders before we can achieve that, just by putting infrastructure by way of train to facilitate easy movement of goods and services and transportation of persons and commuters across not only Lagos State, other states alone could make people to keep their cars or drive their cars less on the road. And that would take away those emissions that we are battling to get rid of.
That would take away a lot of emissions, majorly those coming from exhaust of cars and all that.
Yes.
And that will also take away a lot of stress and high blood pressure that people are facing thanks to Lagos State traffic.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can survive Lagos State traffic, then you can survive anywhere possible. Go and have some bit of hell. For those that are traveling outside Lagos, years back, there used to be, just like Olumide reminded us, there used to be a train service from Lagos down to the north. We need that to come back.
Because the tracks are still there.
The tracks are still there. So however, we need that to come back.
Yes.
Now, we are having issues of seeing containers leave our ports.
Yes.
Especially Apapa. And thanks to that particular, they must leave. People need the products. People need machineries. Now, why can't we have those rails back? Because they are still there. It decongests the road from all those trucks and trailers. Sorry, people will be saying truck businesses will go out of fashion. No, it won't. There will be the end distributor from wherever we're going to have a dry port to the end, to whoever is going to take the thing. But they shouldn't be the major ones transporting this across state lines.
Okay.
That is not good. It's not healthy both for them. And it's not that safe for the communities they are passing, because we get to see a lot of accidents happen that should not happen.
True.
Yes.
The same thing with the ones carrying fuel.
Fuel, yes.
That we shouldn't see on our roads. So if this administration, if they can achieve getting rails across from the south to the east, from the north to the west, then that would be a very good one.
Great. That would be a very good one. Now, without much ado, let's move on to the next story. The United States and Chinese officials are meeting in London today for a new round of high-level trade talks. The discussion aimed to ease rising tensions that have gone beyond tariffs to export restrictions on vital goods like rare earth minerals. The United States delegation is led by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jameson Greer, while China's Vice Premier He Lifeng heads the Chinese side. This follows a phone call between President Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping last week, where both leaders agreed to move forward on earlier commitments made in Geneva. Markets have responded positively in anticipation, with talks seen as key to stabilizing global supply chains and easing economic uncertainty. While the UK is hosting the meeting, it is not directly involved in the negotiations. Chooks, I have been waiting for this, in the sense that how are they going to resolve this? Is it that the US is going to continue dishing out tariffs and China is going to respond and they keep dishing out tariffs and the other country will respond? Or is it going to end up, I was wondering where it's going to end. But first of all, whilst I was trying to figure out who initiated the meeting, and I've not been able to get my hands on that, I didn't know we would be getting to this level of conversation. This is a positive. From other countries too, that have become, part of those bearing the burden when two elephants fight.
Are they actually fighting?
Oh,
that should really be. They're not fighting. They are both protecting their interest, and every others are bearing the brunt. I always like looking at the funny side of things. The host for this particular negotiation happens to be the UK.
Yes.
Once upon a time, UK used to be the superpower. Once upon a time. It's a matter of time. It's a matter of time. Okay. Now,
I know what you're insinuating.
I'm not insinuating anything. Okay. So keep your head on this table. Keep your head on this table. This goes to tell Africa, because I always look at it from an African perspective. It's all about leverage. Once upon a time, the US could do whatever they will do and China will cower. Those days are gone. Completely gone. So it doesn't matter who happens to be the president of the US, you can't just push them or shove them aside. They also count. And they don't just count. They can give it to you back the way you are giving it to them. Another major issue they are looking at is rare earth minerals.
Yes.
Fortunately and unfortunately, China happens to be the major player in that particular sector. So, hey, you need them. You 100% need them. Yeah, Russia have told the US, hey, come, we'll give it to you. But, hey, China is still the major big player in that particular
When you say
sector.
big player, that they have it?
They have it. They control the movement. They control what comes out at the end of the day. They have a large chunk of control over that. Then now, this trade war is all about I'm producing, you're producing, where do I ship? If I'm shipping to you and you're shipping to me, what tax should I put on it? Let my own industry grow. At the end of the day, these are two countries trying their best to get the best for their people. So Africa, where are we? This is the question we should be asking ourselves. In this whole equation of trade tariff, what are we benefiting? Where do we stand? What leverage can we push, get, or use?
Okay, so Olumide, Chooks has been talking about a lot of things, and we're talking about rare earth minerals. I thought when you said China owns the market, I was looking at Africa. We see that China is by way of Chinese operation in Africa, so they have access to the movers and shakers or those who are in the corridors of power in Africa, and they've used that leverage to come in whilst they are building infrastructure, rail lines and ports authorities in those places in Africa. Then they have access by way of trade-off to go to these African countries to get some gold, get some lithium, get some uranium.
Those minerals are not the real
they're not the real earth minerals. So I was thinking in that light too. What's your perspective in this?
Well, the ongoing US-China and trade, US and China trade talks could have indirect but significant impact on Africa and Nigeria. If you look at agriculture, if you look at tech, even oil, mineral exports, just like you said, China holds the card when it comes to lithium and the rest of them. But what I would also like us to look at is food security. Now, if this talk goes well, it could also lower food inflation. Knowing fully well that Nigeria, we consume more than what we export. So this talk actually significantly affects us. If it goes well, yes, maybe food inflation might come down. If it doesn't, well, we would look for other things. But it's a wake-up call for us, Nigeria. It's a wake-up call for us.
Okay.
We should see this, even whether it goes south or not, we should even see it as a benefit, a business opportunity here that, okay, if these two guys cannot talk things out, hey, let them come to us. But are we ready? Do we even have the facility?
Have we fixed our houses?
Have we fixed our houses?
Long enough for them to come to you?
To come to us.
Okay. So, Chooks, there's this part I want us to look at. Because of the purpose of this conversation, those countries are seek to roll back or to suspend the trade rivalry they've been having for 90 days. It's a long time. That's 3 months.
3 months.
Yes,
So now
definitely is a long time.
Yes, so now apart from that, they are saying that, okay, yes, Chinese control rare earth minerals, and these minerals are the one that is used for...
The president also deemed it fit and were very...
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with a daily service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, Souq Enlightenment.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing, and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, monitoring, and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. Ready to make an impact? For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 439 2362. Visit us today at www.adstudycenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us. We apologize for that break in transmission. However, we've come to the end of the program. However, I'm going to like to get our last thoughts on the U.S.-Chinese talks. You have less than 20 seconds.
Less than 20 seconds. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that for each of these talks, the stock market is going to swing one way or the other. Great. And those that know. So it doesn't matter how good or bad, people are making money. And let it be less volatile as it used to be, less in your faces, because it's not going to stop. It's going to continue. But behind the scenes, there's a reason why the U.S. is trying to control the semiconductor market and getting too close to Taiwan. It's just to get some leverage over China. But hey, is it going to happen? We don't know. But for Africa, please, let us position ourselves to have some leverage and not just depending on every other person.
Great. Olumide, your last thoughts.
Well, I'll say when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. Let's move from being the grass to
part of the
major players.
Part of the elephant.
All right, that's where we draw the curtain. Now, do remember that when the China-U.S. tariff war was quite, intense, stocks were dropping here and there, both from U.S. and from China. And let's assume that this conversation is going to go the right direction. What are you going to expect? I'll leave that to your thought. I'm Oyinpreye Krumale. Many thanks for watching. You can catch me on Oyinpreye8 on Instagram and Oyinpreye5 on Twitter. Jokes?
Yes, thank you very much for being part of this program today. We look forward to seeing you again. You can follow me on CGUVNOR, that's C Governor, on all social media platforms. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure staying with us on Souq Business Landscape. Follow us on all our social media, and you can also follow me on Instagram at Media Juggernaut. I am Olumide Sokoya.
Thanks for watching.